Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. The players are getting ready here. This is a ranked game between GrimReaper, a private, and Get Me Stella, although I will say GrimReaper has been as high as, I've seen him I think as second lieutenant before. So this is not me playing, it's a community cast by a friend of the channel, and a very good friend of the channel at that. First we fought together, well we fought against each other as enemies, and now occasionally as allies. Notably, Grim featured in the Polish artillery episode previously. So, before we do get into the opener and what's going on here, I do just want to ask if you have the inclination, give it a like, give it a share, and a subscribe. I don't ask very often, but we're a tiny channel, and anything you guys can do really does help me out a lot. So, now let's get into the opening. You can see Grim is headed up toward Foxtrot, and the opener is pretty slow. So the DAF YA is motorized, and that is going pretty quickly, but the AMX Prees are not. This is a mechanized opening, and one just meant to hold, and Fox, as you can see, the bulk of the forces are going over toward Delta and Alpha. So a KWS circling, trying to protect above, and a 104G. This guy, I think, is usually used as a helo hunter, not one of my favorite ones, because I think you get much higher performance out of planes with 2 missiles instead of just 1, but there has actually lost his target, as that Lynx H7 did drop something off, which is very important. So Get Me Stella has 2 Lynxes out of the way. Commonwealth is usually very slow, and you can see the KWS takes a big hit right there, right after the Lynx. Right after the Lynx set down, so actually would be a good guess and accurate in this case to think, yeah, that's SAS, they fired a Stinger and they got a hit, and that is going to be a tough thing to break. The interesting thing here, though, is that the rest of this opener, it's a surprisingly wide map. And so the mechanized opener toward Alpha and Delta is going very, very slowly. And the enemy with those Lynxes, I mean, the Lynx set down, I think, over this town here between Charlie and Delta, and if there was even just infantry on the ground there, particularly special forces, they can get to Alpha very quickly. So, I don't know, I tend to find Dutch-German is a very persistent deck, but when you lose out on speed in the opener to the Commonwealth, it does bring up a couple questions. So, we do see, yeah, this force here is going to be a Fliegerfaust, Grenadiers, Hussar Wren. The Scout isn't really going to be able to get the best vision from this spot. Really, any infantry will be able to see up to the forest here, and you're not going to be able to see enemy infantry in the town here anyway, so I'm not entirely sure I love that positioning. I think it's better to have one farther back on the woods, that way you can see past the trees here, and then also sort of spread out over to the left as well. But it is going to be a hard bunker to bust, that's for certain. And now here's something interesting too. So again, mechanized infantry. When I do this opener, I tend to cap Bravo and then send out infantry if they're mechanized to Alpha. Before that I do motorized, and SAS catch those Hussar Wren unawares. So it was in fact special forces dropped off in the middle of the field, and that's going to be a really big problem. In particular because, as we see in just a second, that wasn't the only forward element for Get Me Stella, who's playing a very, very aggressive game. Immediate callouts are more infantry and AMX Prees, but also an AH-64 escort, so very nice call there from Grim, and for killing infantry and things like that. But there's a whole armored column coming through, an FV-103 Spartan leading the way, and something with a big gun, because that looks A1 is taken out in what sounded like a single tank shot. And now we have TH-495s, 20-point transports with autocannons, and something dedicated AA to get that maintained fire, and down goes the escort. So about 100 points lost already for Grim, and, well, things are looking pretty grim, pardon the pun, in this sort of area, because if the Red 4 player can get all the way to Bravo and push Bravo, that can be a very difficult thing to protect sometimes. And, I mean, goodness gracious, if they start calling in units on this side, the whole right-hand side of the map is lost, and it's just surrender at that point. But Grim's a very he's a very persistent player, so I doubt that's going to be the case. We do have an engagement now, Decisive sparring with Hussar Wren, and those Carl Gustav M2s are brutal when they're aimed at infantry. So you can see SAS down to 5, Decisive able to shoot again. And these guys, I mean, wonderful supporting fire, certainly what makes them so good at town-to-town fighting, and even woods fighting, because the M2s also do a wonderful job at clearing out vehicles. They're just a little bit fragile, and you can see a mortar all the way up here, and that's when you should know you're a little bit in trouble. If there's a mortar piece, an AA piece, something with a big gun, that's a huge amount of your opponent's forces. It does also mean, however, that the rest of it should be pretty light. And if we take a neutral look for just a second, there's a hold here, so both sides not really willing to engage, but Verploeg, Hussar Wren have moved forward, but I don't know, still pretty far back in the woods there. Green Jackets, Milans, yeah, just a light garrison force there in India. A single Green Jacket contesting Delta, which is usually the contested middle zone here. And then a screening force, so Milans, SAS, and a couple of vehicles around Charlie, and then all of this. So a Coyote, and actually an Oslab C command vehicle buy from Get Me Stella as well, as he's relying on double Challenger Marksman, Canadian Rifles, and a Challenger 2 of all things to overwhelm the Dutch-German forces. So we will switch back to Grim's perspective then. He did not know about that CV buy, but we have a Leopard Verkenning coming forward, very capable scout tank. He's going to struggle against Challenger 2, but he doesn't know the Challenger 2 is there, which is part of the issue. In the meantime, SAS now have engaged with Grenadiers on the left-hand side, and these guys are going to get brutally murdered in the open field before they get up to the town. I've done this before. It always seems like it's such a short distance, they can make the rush, and they really can't. One group is pretty much shredded. Commandos also shooting in, and those Grenadiers are dead before they really have a chance to get much done, which is a little bit unfortunate there. AMX Prees, however, are going to be very nice for fending off Canadian Rifles, and down goes the Verkenning in a single shot, so that Challenger 2 really showing his muscle. A couple of Martyrs, good position from the Martyrs, I like this a lot. Those Milan F2s should be able to get some nice work done, and swing and barely miss at the Marksman. Second miss, and that's the issue with these guys. I mean, 45% accuracy is good, but it's not a ton, and unless you take them up-vetted, you're not going to get a lot of bonuses. More infantry coming in the MX Prees, and at this point in time, with the bow vehicle and actually spotting the Oslab C coming through, this has to feel like, shit, what's going to happen? Which is part of why I wanted to play this replay for you guys. It's a feeling that I get very, very often. Playing ranked, but also just doing one-on-ones where I'm sitting there going, hey, yeah, this is a great plan, and then my opponent does something completely around the other side, and I'm sitting there going, oh, that was an even better plan. But a seaplane did come in, and at least one of the marksmen is down, but with Alpha capped, Get Me Stella is going to, jeez, that's a nice name, is going to start getting points. So +2 ticking, and if he takes Bravo, as I said previously, that's going to be basically game blouses right there, which is, well, not really what you want to see. Command vehicle is repositioning, and the Parmelan team and Huzal Ren are moving up cautiously. So I think what Grim was trying to do here is see, can he get anything shooting at the reinforcements coming down the way, because that, to cut off the enemy supply line there would be really, really helpful. This was actually a Rover Wombat, that's why, you know, a couple shots were taken there, but it's just a Wombat, 30% accuracy, and immediately killed by Milan teams. But really, I mean, they have 12 shots. If I was the Red 4 player, I wouldn't mind them killing a Wombat with some of those shots. It's really not the end of the world. And you can see there was some fighting over here. Huzal Ren and Verploeg just sort of holding, and there's actually investment on this side as well. So AMX Prees, very, very, very cheap 5-point vehicles moving up reinforcements, and that could be an issue for the Red 4 player. If Grim is able to hold on long enough here with minimal reinforcements, things like Milan teams that can get very valuable kills, then he might be able to take advantage of the fact that, I mean, we've already seen things come in. There's been, looks like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. One additional CV buy, which is at least 100 points for the Red 4 player, and that means it's a big investment. So if he can push on this side and capture India, it can become a really asymmetric but really dynamic game. And down goes another 20-point vehicle. You do love to see it if you are a Dutch-German fan. And I don't know, the Milan 2s, they're going to hit pretty hard even against the frontal armor of a Challenger 2. These guys have, of course, 24 AP power, and even though the accuracy, again, is not the best, I mean, that's 2 shots right there. 1 hit only, but I'm not sure. Are they getting side shots? 24, 23, 11 side. No, I think it would do, well, kind of hard to say. No, I don't think those are side shots. That looks like it was frontal armor. But now the SAS are being pushed, and this is what I was talking about. So Grenadiers, 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 Huzal Ren, and AMX Prees up around the side. I mean, yeah, they'll get taken out, but they're pulling out the snab rockets from the Lynx H7 that would otherwise melt a unit of Grenadiers per shot, and the SAS are a very expensive piece compared to, you know, lowly Grenadiers at 10 points and AMX Prees at 5. So that town has been lost, and it's a wonderful staging ground for Blue 4, well, for the Blue 4 side of the field. In the meantime, the push from Red 4 has, well, I guess from the Commonwealth rather, has been reduced mostly to Fusiliers. We're going to pick things up just a little bit here as they are just walking across open ground, and I really wish those Martyrs had unloaded and just shot down the open field. That would have been a massacre, but I guess it's more important to get the infantry where they're supposed to go. So Mankadi here, and that is going to be resupplying the Milans. Challenger down to 2 strength, taking shots, 1 strength. and he does escape. But those TH-495s are not going to be so lucky. He has a Leopard 2A1, 100 points, pretty decent gun for the points. I mean, the Leopard line is, as we all know, decidedly average, but this is nice, and the concave here is good too, because the Parmelons are hitting from this direction, and the Leopard from that sort of cross angle means that you're not going to be able to present your frontal armor to both, and that Challenger 2 has to really be careful here with a single point of strength left. It almost makes me wonder if Stella didn't bring any resupply vehicles, which could be really, really unfortunate. But the Challenger 2 does land a shot and the Leopard 2A1 down to half strength. A second shot would be lethal. Don't mind the sirens, guys. They're not coming for me, I promise. I also promise I will come up with a different joke one day. And yeah, Leopard 2A1 retreating. But the Verkenning and a 1-5 have gotten all the way up here on the left-hand side in the meantime. So Green Jackets sparring with Grenadiers in the open ground, but these guys just went straight on through, and now they're trying to prevent any reinforcements from hopping over to India. So Stella is now having the same thing that we are. He's looking at this side, he's looking at that side, and he has to go all the way over here and micro there as well. So a very nice attention splitter, as well as a serious danger to the longevity of the Commonwealth player on that side. So these guys just circumvented a Milan team, Green Jackets, Coyote, Commandos, it doesn't really matter. And everything coming across this bridge is going to have to deal with these guys in close range or long range. One or the other, they have to get it done. So if we take a look now, we did just miss it, but that's Challenger 2 was taken out, I believe, by either the Milan team or there was a plane called, so kind of sucks for that. And you can see this is beginning to stabilize, so what looked like a lot of danger at first has been really ameliorated by just calm, purposeful play, getting value where you can with the Milan teams, forming a good, solid, cohesive defense line, and then taking advantage of your opponent's weakness in other positions. So Nuclear Winter is Coming is a huge map, and that is definitely a contributing factor here, but there's a lot of maps where people, I think, they have a lot of space, and it's not always put to the best use. Particularly, I mean, I know I like to concentrate on one area more than I should, but Helicopter Hunter coming in here, cheap 60-point F-104G. He's going after the scout helicopter, but swinging a miss, and that is going to be in the AO long enough. Lynx 3 taking a shot, and let's take a look. Can he get out? No, he's not even trying to. Turning around, might be going after the Lynx 3. That would be a nice play. I mean, these guys, they don't have rocket pods, but they are very, very valuable. But a Tornado F2 coming in, and that's one hit. Second shot is on the way. Lynx 3 goes down. Beautiful trade there. So the F-104G, 60 points compared to the Lynx 3 at 100, and that is something worth doing time and time again. So very nice play there by Grim, and a seaplane coming in as well, making sure there's nothing left that can shoot at helicopter support or planes on this side of the field. Grenadiers, meanwhile, are cutting off the support line, and everything that's in these forests is completely isolated now unless you go all the way up around through the forest. It's going to be a really long walk, but SAS and a couple of 30-50s in the open ground are presenting a challenge, and here come the Martyr 1A3 reinforcements. Nice move by Grim in that spot there, trying to get rid of those 30-50s, but it's going to be a hard time finding a good angle. Grenadiers have made it to the woods now. They will be engaging with SAS, and that command vehicle from Stella is going to have to back off, or it's going to be taken down. So, Tornado ECR still circling, and this is another problem, pushing so far away from your own spawn point, I guess, on a map this big. This guy can circle with relative impunity. If a fighter starts coming over this way, I mean, there's a KWS that was already out, there's any untold amount of AA that could be sitting anywhere in here, and it's always a risk driving through it. And now those Martyrs are getting their weapons online. Milan 2 shooting at a Stormer. Can he get it? Yes! Down goes the Stormer. 75-point kill there, and that was just beautiful, cutting off those supply lines for the Commonwealth player. 2 more shots going in, no luck. I've seen some Milans do weird turns, man, I swear. And Grenadiers versus SAS, so calm, panicked. The SAS should win this, and yep, down they go. But the Martyrs and the Grenadiers should be enough to, yeah, I mean, one SAS isn't going to be able to take out a healthy group of Grenadiers, even if they do put a surprising amount of hurt on them. And the Martyrs versus Rover Wombats, that's not a fight I want to be involved in. So if we do take a look at things really quickly on the left-hand side, a lot of units out of ammunition, actually running low on the FN mag of all things. Verpluig are out of their Super Dragons, and yeah, I don't know, I like these guys too. I think they're underestimated cheap fire support, sort of like a pseudo Milan team, but I don't know, they behave a little differently. They can target infantry too, which is nice. But if we take a look now at the neutral, all of this is still here. There's Canadian Rifles, Commandos, Ocelot PC, Challenger that's out of ammunition, Green Jacket, FV-432, and there's a defensive line between them and any and all support. So that's pretty rough, and actually things look pretty sparse on this side for Stella, really across the whole board. This has been a brutal, atrocious play. But these guys can't advance on the open ground. There's a Leopard 2A1 waiting for them, who's Ren spotting, and any unknown amount of troops through that town. Now, they will just capture Mankati, and that's kind of hilarious. I mean, this is still a good position, right? Because reinforcements from Grim are going to default fast move the shortest way possible, and that's going to take them right through that town if he's going over into the eastern side of the field. So, yeah, that's a problem he's going to have to deal with, but Canadian Rifles and Fusiliers now taking a more conventional approach, trying to breach the north side of Alpha. And this is something he can do without really having to run down this whole section, right? So they are going to have to back off Decisive. Man, these guys put in some good work. Look at that, Canadian Rifles half dead. Milan teams are also half dead, but if they can move out just a little bit more, they might be okay. And Decisive are going to have to watch their ammunition, because those FV-432s, yeah, there's not a heck of a lot else that can kill them. One frontal armor does make you so much more impervious to small arms fire, it's kind of impressive. But now we have a blue 4 advance and green jacket are spotted, but these guys, they're just nice and cheap. I think he was looking for high value kills. And hey, this guy has ammunition now, so I guess they're... Oh, Grim resupplied his opponent. Oh, that captured Mankati, man. It's almost getting a block 15 kill. Let's see, evac ordered, Tornado 1DS coming in, and that should pancake these Fusiliers and anything else that was next to them. So, bombs going down, infantry dead, and there needs to be a resupply vehicle here. That's probably where the last one was headed. But if he can, that's a decent hold in Alpha. And now you can see Delta has been capped, but there was really a very light investment into that from Stella on the first part, and that's going to be a difficult thing to deal with. Challenger 2 is up and down to 1 strength as it was hit by block 15. And actually, no, it was hit by a Verkenning, I think, before it was able to kill the Verkenning. I really wish this Leopard 1-5 would just take this single shot out there. He might be able to have gotten it, but the Escort's trying to do it. Escort taken down by a Eurofighter Typhoon. But that should tell you a little bit of your opponent's desperation as well. This guy is not usually a helicopter hunter, and is definitely not best suited for that role. Grenadiers making their way forward, AMX Prees as well. I'd like to see this switch. Grenadiers leading the way, AMX Prees following, but there's probably not, well, I guess everything else previously went through those woods, so it was a pretty safe bet. KWS going in, and I wish it was an OCU. I wish it was something with an ATGM to get that last single tap on the Challenger 2 and a very high value kill. So there is still some clearing out that needs to be done in India, but there's no capping going on, and that is roughly fine. There's 20 minutes left in the match. The second India is capped for Grim, that's going to be taking a +1, actually a +3 the other direction, as it looks like, yeah, Alpha is returned to Grim, and the difference is +1 in Delta, but -2 from not capping India, and that's throwing things in Grim's favor. So it's going to be a long wait at a +1, but it doesn't have to stay that way, and my guess is that it won't. So let's go to +2 here, as I think both sides are just reinforcing. The early game is well and truly over. This is no longer going to be sheer maneuver warfare. It's going to be broad offensives and trying to crack through an opponent's position with concentrated force. Because, I mean, we basically had the mechanized versus motorized opener here, and mechanized did have some strength in the long run, but Fliegerfaust team actually gunned run by a Tornado F2. We don't see that every day. And the Eurofighter Typhoon circling as well, so the KWS is going to have an uphill battle here. 1 missile away, 2 missiles away, actually all 3 away, and that Eurofighter has a clean shot. First missile is nope. Second, yes. And third's on the way. Very lucky escape for the KWS. That did not have to go that way. Commandos 90 versus Verploeg. This is going to be interesting. The Verploeg missiles aren't going to be the best town-to-town fighting, but these guys have a mini-me, and those Verploeg, my guess is, even though it's 2-1, they're going to get absolutely shredded by the Commandos 90. Just wonderful infantry, solid infantry, something that the Commonwealth is known for, honestly. I mean, these guys, they have to make up for their speed with something, and Commandos 90 are definitely one of those somethings. Carl Gustav M2, Mini-Me, and the F-88 Austier? Yeah, I guess Austier, all wonderful equipment, and that's... both of those Verploegs that had been there for a long time are now gone, but you can see Grim is consolidating his advantage now in India. Huzhou Ren, Leopard 1-5s, I don't know, I think having the Grenadiers just bum rush the town would have been pretty nice. But Delta, yeah, Delta's recapped, so there's a bombing run there. And let's see, let's get through this, because there's a lot of positioning, some smoke coming in. Might be the prelude to an attack, but I think he just knew there was a Milan team there and wanted to just I've done this sometimes. If I know there's a weapons team, I'll occasionally smoke it and not move, just to get my opponent used to me smoking it. It's like, hey, I know you're there. You're not going to know if this is actually a prelude to an attack or not. It's just going to be, well, I'm going to block off your line of sight. It doesn't cost me much with that. If I have mortars out and just sitting idle, it's really a kind of easy thing to do. But look at this fortress. So Leopard 1-5s have been split up. There's ATGM teams coming in now, and or Verploeg there. Bombing run just missing those Commandos 90. But yeah, let's see. That's a Milan team. There should be another one in the other M113 1AG. And these guys are headed forward, trying to secure the forward forests there and just make it a really hard time. I mean, a challenge or two with good support could still crack this, and there is one back there, but they take a long time to heal up. That's something I've noticed about super heavies recently, is the investment is, it's in more than just one space, right? But it is actually going to be an attack here. Challenger 1 Mark III going forward. The Milan's lack of line of sight really costing Grim there, and also, I mean, I think there was really no recon left over here, so it would have been nice to have Huzaren in the front town, but Martyr 1A3s are being taken out, and that tank isn't going to give a shit if the Martyr 1A3 is shooting at him with that RH202, so the lack of Milans is just a death sentence. The only thing saving him is the stabilization malfunction, but it's noticed, attack move given, that tank stopped, and down goes the Martyr. Now there's just Grenadiers. And keep in mind, Grim never actually pushed back out of the forest. So, I mean, it would have been bloody and atrocious, and it's over nothing. There's no zone here, there's no value there, really, but there is now a command vehicle headed up toward India. Commandos are sparring with Huzaren, but also being fired at by the Leopard 1-5, which is going to be a very uncomfortable thing, although, not every tank shot. Jeez. It's interesting. It's hard to tell misses from, well, yeah, I guess you should always reliably get at least 1 point of damage. Down they go, and the last Commonwealth opposition in India is well and truly gone. So that's going to start a +3 ticking as soon as that zone is capped, and it's interesting. If the Commonwealth player can have a comeback in Alpha, they're still in this game, they're not out of it quite yet, but it is going to be an uphill battle, I think, just because it's so far away. I think this was almost a case of sunk cost fallacy, where they were sitting there going, okay, well, we had a toehold here, we have some units here, we can take advantage of that and come rescue them, but if you notice, the units here, let's just make sure there are some left. Green Jackets, Oslovs, Commandos, these are good infantry. They never actually support the units that are trying to come rescue them. So it would have been nice to see the Oslov PCs headed over this way, the Green Jackets spotting on this side, Commandos 90 maybe moving up to spar with those Grenadiers. And instead you have a Stormer moving up through the woods right into the path of a couple of Grenadiers, just stopping short by luck. Rather than anything else, if these guys had moved forward, that would be a dead Stormer, no two ways about it. And that's kind of a tricky situation. You can see this side's been pretty much left alone, so Stella, yeah, the Challenger 2 is back to full strength, so that's sitting right there behind that Lynx. But there's really just no motion over on that side, so all of the eggs in one proverbial basket, and I would really have liked to see those two sides of that coin working together. So Centurions do encounter the Grenadiers, and these guys will do pretty well. 9 frontal armor means that it's difficult for non-anti-tank infantry to really get any sort of good engagement with them, and here's a Command Chieftain. Again, I'm kind of just sitting there going, It's easy to judge not being in the situation, though, right? And if you're trying to deal with your opponent taking out a +4, now that Delta is also capped, that's a crisis, because he's now past you, 230, 215, so even a draw won't get the win now. You have to actually, even counter-capping Alpha won't get you the win now. You have to really push him out of a couple different zones to finish this game off well. And that has to be stressful, and it is stressful, it's very stressful, because you can blink, and there goes 30 minutes of what you thought was recovery that really hasn't quite worked out. But it's a lot of preaching, not a lot of action. It's a very stagnant game at the moment, so we're just sort of trudging forward, seeing what we can see. Now, the Tornadoes are taking fire from a single Hawk Hios, but all 3 shots were a swing and a miss there, and both of them get out. But the Hios is going to be, I think, drawing some mortar fire? No, it looks like that's going in, just keeping up that smoke wall against the Milan 2 there. Maybe a little bit of an overinvestment at that point, unless there's constant reinforcements coming in. But for all we know, there very well could be. So, scout helicopters just sort of scoping things out here. Kind of amazing the Gepard didn't have range on that, but Fliegerfaust's patting out the AA, this is why I love blue dragons and the longer range ones. I mean, 26, 25 meter range is so much nicer than 2275. Even if these guys hit more often, you can move something with longer range up to here, maybe, this forward town section, and then that AS-350 would be a very, very dead helicopter bomber coming in, and down he goes. So taken out by the red 4 player there, and probably not worth it either. It looked like a bit of a blind bombing run, but the mortar had actually run out of ammunition. You have to watch that, because they will, if you give them queued fire position commands and they run out of ammunition, they'll just go forward and try and shoot with their secondary, which is often a 50 cal, not something you want to be doing. Leopard 1-5 is taken out, and you can see the rover wombats are doing an excellent job screening for something back there. It's a Leopard C1, 40-point tank, but 10 rounds a minute is very, very deadly. So now that the smoke has kind of gone away, I imagine those other mortars are going to probably take up the charge there. But we have to see, so if the Commonwealth player wants to survive at this point, they have to make a move. 350 points, taking out a +2 is not enough to save you there. And I think, so I've been at this point before, I've pushed at this point and lost at this point. Actually, recently, the French game, where we were almost able to put one over on Russian Lullaby, and you just have to, just go for it, you know? I've lost a lot of games with units just sitting there, and I always regret it, because if I lose a game, I want it to be because I really, truly was just nothing left on the field. Otherwise, everything here is a potential advantage, it's a potential offensive move, it's a potential way of getting back into the game. And if we take a look, there's a lot here now. So, I mean, there was a lot of good smoking on the Parmelan. We didn't see much of this come through at all. Maybe a couple, we saw the Challenger 1, not many of the infantry, and now you can see Stella is kind of going for it. So Canadian Rifles and Green Jackets moving forward. There is now some artillery support going in, probably just hunting for a command vehicle or shooting after that Hawk-Hios, and this is pretty nice. The Stormer, the Centurions, but AMX Prees are not the right target for those guys. One of the biggest wasted missiles I've seen in quite a while, actually, and this is something you have to watch out for. So the Rover Wombat's nice, but Verpluig are shooting in, Leopard 1-5 shooting in, and they're gone. And this Stormer does not want to be that far forward. It's kind of like how you have to screen things with, screen stuff out in front of your ADATs as well, because if those Verpluig, I mean, they're shooting at the Stormer right now. If they get through to it, that's going to be a really, really rough day. The only saving grace is that the Leopard's actually stunned, taken out by the Stormer, so nice play there, and somehow the Verpluig have missed so many shots in a row, it's just incredible. And I think that was, yeah, they haven't had a hit yet. Oh no, they had 1 hit out of 6. Not exactly the accuracy stated on the card, but Law of Averages says it should be getting better. No, I mean 30% because they're panicked, that's fine. But down goes that Stormer, Harrier GR7 bomber coming in and is relatively successful. Leopard 2A1 destroyed, another one panicked, and the Challenger 1 Mark III might be able to find his way through. And this is what I'm talking about. It's that last desperate push where if you can just get through, but here come the Block 15s, here come tornadoes, and that tank is taken out, bombs coming in to back it up, just punishing any infantry that happened to be there. And yeah, that's going to be the last that we have really for Stella's side of the field. A couple of the pushes, oh jeez, hate it when it does that. Jeez, come on. A couple of the pushes and a Challenger 2 a little bit too little too late, moving forward into Alpha to support. Would have been lovely if he was up here really anchoring that formation with a little bit of smoke support to deny the AA their win. And you can see Grim did an excellent job, 2450 kills versus 1530 losses, but that's definitely not what you would have expected to see at the beginning of that game, right? So you started off down by 100 plus points just off the opener. Get Me Stella did a really wonderful job taking a forward position, but then just sort of got ground down by the Dutch-German Corps. So very nice play to both players, and thank you for the community cast, I guess, from Grim. If you guys have things that you want me to comment on and put up and get some visibility, limited though it may be, don't hesitate to send that to me. Of course, the Discord and my email are on the channel. So, for units that did very well, Milan 2 team, beautiful, beautiful work. Rover Wombat, Challenger Marksman, Fusiliers, and that Challenger 2 was finished off not by a plane, but by a lowly Par Milan 2, Paler? Yeah, I just call them Pars. By a single Milan 2 team. Beautiful, beautiful work. This saved that side of the field. A single Milan 2 by, do not underestimate them. And his buddy, 2s, I guess, got a TH-495, 20 points, 5 points, another 20 points, no, 15 with Fusiliers 90. Just beautiful, beautiful work fending off that Commonwealth push. A little bit of smoke would have gone a long way there, I think, to closing the gap and taking out those fragile Milan teams. Leopard 1-5 did really, really well, getting a command vehicle kill, and let's see, Martyr 183 punched above his weight. Block 15 OCU is always a good buy, Challenger 1 Mark III there at the end, Harrier GR7 before that, and a Coyote as well. And you can see this was that hero F104G, it took out a Lynx 3. Oh, beautiful. And yeah, I guess that's most of it. Well, thank you guys for hanging around, and like I said earlier, I try not to ask often, but I might have to start doing it a bit more often just because things are kind of stagnating, and I really, really want to get just a little bit farther ahead again with the channel. So if it's not too much trouble, do leave a like, share, subscribe, and thank you guys for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.